Rocky's going to keep it.
Get another good block.
Pushes out the Sam.
Kansas got the
Sam up the sideline. Touchdown, North Florida.
That was a heck of an option play. They ran. You're talking about the.
Guys, it's been a while since you have heard the words touchdown, and it might be a while considering the fact that this virus has got everybody staying safe and staying home. Listen, welcome this evening. We thought we'd brighten up your timeline. We are practicing social distancing here in the studio, so I feel so far away from my guest this evening, but it's okay. You guys know what time it is. It's time for your favorite sports show. I am your host, Terry J. of Get in the Game. And tonight I am excited to get in the game, to delve into the scenes of what was created by our guest, Mr. Terry McGriff. Welcome to the set. Thank you so much for coming. Listen, we definitely appreciate you coming out considering the state of our economy right now. Everyone's saying to stay at home, but you and I are believers, and so we know that we're covered by the blood. So we just move forward as is. Plus, we've got to give the people something exciting to view because listen, we know that you guys are tired of those Netflix series and you want sports. And so
binge with us.
Yeah, exactly. So Mr. Terry McGriff is going to tell us how he got started in football. Listen, don't forget, guys, you can follow us live right now on 904live.com as well as on our Facebook pages. So we are here with the CEO and owner of the Women's Tackle Football League. And listen, as with every story that we have here on Get in the Game, there's always a beginning because you obviously there was a path that you took to get to that. So let's start from the beginning. You're born and raised in Daytona Beach, Florida. Tell us where your love for football came from.
Wow, my love for football came from basically out of the backfield and with my friends. And we really just was kind of playing for fun. And I really probably started really thinking about football probably in the late 70s. The first game I remember was the Super Bowl with the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, and that was probably my favorite memory of football, and it kind of got me falling in love with the game. And then started playing youth football and had some great friends that we played. And I remember one of the times going up there, our big event at that time was a child. We came to Jacksonville, and we played in the old Gator Bowl. And a couple of my buddies were like, who are these boys we're playing? These guys are huge. You know, it's a big boy. You know, but we held our own. I don't remember, but I think we actually won that game. But we were first like, man, these guys are way bigger than us. And we're going to come and show them what Volusia County football is all about.
Let them tell it they won the game. Let you tell it y'all won the game. So listen, even though everybody here that watches the show knows that I'm an Eagles fan, but I am really curious to find out what about that game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers really caught your interest and began your drive and passion for the game of football.
I remember the excitement about the game, the talking, the big plays. I remember Hollywood Henderson stripping the football ink from Bradshaw and going in and scoring. I remember the drop by Jackie Smith, and I never remember, oh my God, he has to be the sickest man in America. You know, I could just see the anguish on his face because he knew he blew it. And so that memory started getting me excited about the game. I remember at that time I actually started getting involved with looking at uniforms and colors and trying to just all that stuff. I just kind of fell in love with everything about the game. And then you start Monday Night Football with Howard Cosell, you know, Dandy Don and all those guys. And so it became something really kind of just drew you in. And really I started really liking football that way. I actually started liking sports and media, just kind of getting it up because of football. And then, you know, you got that camaraderie with your friends and you go out there and you play. And it was just something to do, and it kind of kept us occupied at that young age.
So you're playing football as a youngster on the streets of Daytona Beach and Volusia County. So you get into high school. Were you being touted as a football player to play in college, or was there another sport that you kind of played at the same time?
I actually was into football. You know, we had some really good athletes back then. We played with a couple of guys that, you know, growing up, actually got cut. I ain't going to tell that story, Terry Anthony. You know what I'm talking about.
Tell it.
we call him TA down there. He's one of the big coaches down at Mainland High School.
Okay.
Had some great athletes like Terry Johnson went on to play. He was a great football player, but he ended up playing college basketball. Was the assistant, I believe, when he left Stanson University. We had some really good athletes that came before us. People like Bruce McNorton, who's now a scout with the Pittsburgh Steelers, spent years with the Detroit Lions. Kenny Flowers, who played at Clemson. Terrence Flagler played a little while with the Atlanta Falcons. It's a whole horse. Obviously, everybody knows who Vince Carter, who came way after us.
Yeah.
So we've had our share of players come out of Volusia County.
Absolutely.
Women and men.
Yeah.
I remember Bridget Gordon. She was. I remember we were growing with her, going to church with her a couple of times. We knew each other as we were younger. Before we kind of went our separate ways in high school, she went to D-Land. She was one of the greatest college basketball players, high school basketball players too. She and I believe went to go into Tennessee and play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she's doing some big time coaching now too.
Yeah. Okay, so high school's over for you, and you decide to go into the Marines, correct? Navy. I'm sorry. Oh,
submarines.
Gosh.
It's okay.
Submarines.
Yes.
So tell us why you chose to do that, and kind of just talk about your experience, because back in that time, I mean, there weren't a lot of African American men, at least going to the Navy to be in submarines.
Right.
So that's a big major decision you made at that time.
Yeah, I didn't have a rough childhood. I had a childhood where we had some mishaps family, mom and dad, I lost my father before I was born, because of my mother's relationship. I ended up being abused as a kid, going through some stuff. So I ended up in foster care. My grandmother and my aunt ended up taking me and raising me. And one of the things we're doing, I could have probably went into sports, but one of the things I told her, I remember walking, I said, the best thing I could do for you is get out of your house, and so you don't have to take. So it helped me grow up, because football was a good thing, but there were certain things I needed to do growing up, and so I made some decisions to go. I'm going to go in there, and then I ended up going in the submarine community. It ended up being a great thing for me. It helped me grow up. It helped me learn a lot of things. One thing is you learn how to be resourceful. You learn how to adapt. You talk about they say improvise, adapt, overcome. I heard they say that with the Marines, but I think they got that from the submarines, because being a submarine, you have to learn everybody's job in order to earn those dolphins.
Yeah.
Shout out to my DBF friends, Diesel Boats Forever.
Awesome.
That's my first boat, was in Sasebo, Japan.
Wow.
Now,
one thing you mentioned that I just want to touch on, because you've coached for over 25 years, so you've had your share of challenging athletes from all backgrounds and ethnicities. One of the things you mentioned that I just kind of want to touch on for a moment is, as a young black man growing up, not necessarily having that male figure in your life, where you see some African American males, they'll take that anger, maybe so to speak, or that malice that they have, and it'll drive them into the sport, right? Whether it's to prove a point, like not having a man in their life, so they prove that they want to be a man. But you kind of went the other direction. Why do you think that so many of our young African American males specifically will go headstrong into sports rather than looking at other avenues to become successful?
I think it's just a product of the environment and not really being educated that there are options out there. A lot of times, because of their circle of environment, the people that's all they know. So they don't really get a chance to get exposed to anybody that gives them a different train of thought. And there's tons of things for people to do outside of sports, in business, in every aspect of life. You can give you examples. Shad Khan, for example, he came here and his invention made him billions. Thinking outside of the box, thinking what people need, how to solve their problems that you may not necessarily think of. Most people think of being the same old doctor, lawyer. Nothing wrong with those things. Wonderful professions. But there are ways in business of things that people need. I mean, you think of Mr. Zuckerberg. That was a need, social media. Like right now, believe me, where would we be without social media right now?
Especially right now. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good point.
So solving problems that may not people necessarily think about need to be solved. Or just fitting in, because a lot of times as African Americans, we are kind of assume that we can't get into those fields, so we don't even try. I would tell all these young brothers and sisters, go and think about what you would not even think about doing. Just say, what have I not even gave a thought of? Go on the internet, Google any kind of job, find out what's the highest paying salaries, what's the highest paying businesses, and you would find out there's things that you can do that you might actually like, that will make you profitable, that will bring you a fortune, that will be able to change your family's generational history, you know, because you have to really put yourself up there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
even if you go back in the Bible, God told Abraham to get away from his family.
Yeah, good point.
You know, that means get out of that environment, because
Yeah.
you won't be able to be allowed to think in
Flourish.
different areas if you didn't do that. So.
Absolutely. So you chose to go into the Navy. Why submarines, though? Why? What about the submarines kind of fascinated you and made you kind of pick that route?
I'm a person that kind of goes off the beaten path. I like to try something that nobody else does.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of people over there, I want to go check it out. I want to go see what. I guess that what they call Lewis and Clark kind of nature spirit. Just want to go and get out there and see what's out there that nobody else has done. So obviously, I knew there weren't a lot of African Americans in the submarine community. Come to find out that one of my biggest influences was my CEO, God rest his soul. He just passed away on the USS Barbell. He was one of the first black African Americans to be a submarine captain.
Wow.
Barbell, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, he's on my Facebook page if you go check it out and pay tribute to him.
Wow.
Yeah, so and then the submarine community is a really, really tight-knit community.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we look out for each other
Yeah.
because we have no other choice. Not just but we do actually really care about each other, and it does give you a chance to look at, you're kind of forced when you're living together that closely to learn how to understand each other, cultures and backgrounds and what. That's one of the great things about the submarine community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us one of the most difficult things as far as adapting, because I mean you're 17 or 18 years old at the time. You know, I don't want to say fresh out of water, but basically, you choose to leave home. You don't know where they're going to place you. Then you pick a submarine, so now you're going to be underwater. And you guys are underwater for
you can be underwater at months at a time.
Months at a time. So what was the most difficult thing or things that you had to adapt to that you think kind of helped you later on in business?
Well, first thing is when you first go in there, you have to learn you have to qualify. You have to qualify submarines. Meaning you have to learn the basics about everything about that boat. Everybody's job, you have to be able to, because in an emergency, you might need to go secure this machinery, or you need to go and help with that. You have to have an idea and understanding about every aspect of that ship. So that's one of the great things about that. And then you have to learn how to get along with people. You have to learn how to, kick in some doors sometimes, say no for an answer, which has always been helpful. You also learn how to get information. One thing about that, if you don't know it, go look it up. That was a common term. Go look it up. Go research it. So it's one of the great things about that.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for your service. We honor you for your service because you were there for
10 years.
10 years. 10 years. Awesome. And your decision to leave came about how?
That was a family thing, Okay. I came back in the seat. I had a young family at the time, was married, and it was just time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Had gone through. At the time, I didn't know I was suffering with PTSD. Now I'm just now finding that out. I'm 30-something years later, but you didn't know why you were going through a lot of that stuff, because when I came back overseas, that was after an incident where I think one of my best friends, him and a few other people, they saved, because we all could have been lost out at sea. This is right before we came back. So I came back, was given orders to come back right after that, and basically my thing was I wanted to kind of start a family, get going, kind of settle down, try to do some things here, and I actually was thinking about trying to get back into sports, because that was just one of the things I still had a passion for, and so that's one of the reasons I came back.
Yeah. So what was your plan? Did you have a plan when it was time for you to leave the Navy, or was it something that kind of took a slow process for you to get to? It kind of
took a slow process. I didn't have a plan on getting out at the time, but at that time I knew it was time for me to go.
Yeah.
It was a different era. We got the little money from President Clinton. Thank you, President Clinton.
Shout out to President Bill Clinton.
And so,
former president. Oops. Yeah.
So just went into the workforce. Kind of had tried some different things and everything, and then life just kind of evolved. And then I got into, when I was in Kings Bay, that's where I kind of got my first introduction into coaching. I actually volunteered at one of the local high schools, Camden County, when they had their first, Jeff Herron first took over. Volunteered out there, just learning, not coaching, just looking. Right. Whatever, hey, you need to get some water, and I looked at that, and then I got into coaching, with St. Mary's Youth Football in St. Mary's, Georgia, where I was stationed coaching my son.
Okay.
And a couple of our neighborhood friends, and then I just got in there and started delving. I always had a like for football. I consider myself a football historian. I can talk for days with just about anybody. When you start anything, especially post '76, I can pretty much go. You know, like I remember your father and a lot of people that you knew, like this gentleman playing. So a lot of people kind of grew up. I grew up with that era, so
yeah.
I got memories and stuff like that. So I kind of got in that, and then I went to the youth football. Then I got into middle school. Went to different coaching clinics. Just started talking to network to people, and worked my way up into high school. You know, by the experience of gotten recommendation from people I knew from Camden, and got me into Providence, where I started coaching there, and then I went to a couple other shout out to Potter's House, you know, Pastor McGoffin, you know, Bishop McGoffin.
Bishop,
there you go.
Bishop in there.
Yeah, just a couple other schools, and like Providence, and I ended up being the head coach at Arlington Country Day, SOS Academy. Miss Mills, love you, darling. So just being around, and then just helping out with the Blue-Gray All-American game, helping with other kids, just trying to help them to expand their mind, not just what's on the field, but your academics. You know, a lot of people try to give all these kids a dream of playing in the NFL. My dream is getting that college, because that's the one thing guaranteed, that college degree. Then once you get that scholarship offer and you accept it, it's all on you now. You can go and make your life for yourself, because that education, depending on what major you get, can be worth its weight in gold. You know, so that's where I kind of got in that, and just get my love for kids and love for giving back to people.
Awesome. Now, at some point, you kind of made the transition somewhere in there to kind of start business practices. So, were you ever able to go back to school and get a degree, or did you just kind of pursue business on your own?
I kind of pursued it on my own. I did a lot of studying, just turning different little courses online. Obviously, the President Trump's little course, did that, and then just doing other little things that you find out online. And then obviously, when the military, did some multi-level marketing, which actually one of the great things, I will say that, not pumping anything, but you got learning about personal development. That's one of the things about that. You learned a lot of you got a lot of around the right books to read, the right type of people, the right type of mindset, and then that just led you into growing personally, which leads you into growing. It kind of takes you where you really want to go in life.
Gotcha. So at some point, you know, you kind of taper off with the coaching, and you get into women's football. Now, explain to our audience, because it's not, I mean, now we're in a day and age where it's kind of more acceptable, and we see people like Santia Dett getting, you know, signing large deals, and we see new leagues opening up. You know, we had the Lingerie Football League, which in my opinion, I don't think people took that as serious as they do now when they see women putting on pads, you know, having on the helmet, hitting and tackling like you see. I mean, obviously it's different because it's not men playing against women, but it's still, the core of the game is still there. So how did you get into women's football?
I got into football by a buddy of mine. I'll cite your name, Reggie Bones. I'll give you the shout out for that. He kind of
You've been shouting out everybody else.
He kind of dragged me. He kind of dragged me into it. You know what I mean? I was really hot at the time. I was still at the head coach at Arlington Country Day. Wasn't interested in. I was just busy and trying to get that program on the right track. And he just got me, come on. And so I ended up going to the game, and I enjoyed it. My compliment was I couldn't tell whether it was girls or guys.
Wow.
You know, the skill set was there. They made plays, so it was normal football.
Yeah.
And then so I appreciate that. I enjoyed it. And so he got me coming back to a couple of different practices, a couple of things.
Now this is when he was over the team that was here.
He was one of the coaches. He was one of the coaches on one of the teams here.
And what was the name of the team back
then? Jacksonville Dixie Blues.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been around. They're the longest running women's football team in the area. They've been around for close to 20 years, if not longer.
Wow. Okay. So that may be something some of our viewers didn't know. So I wanted to make sure you brought that up.
No problem. So he ended up convincing me to coach with them, because I'm like, I really wasn't interested. Yeah. You know, but my thing is, I saw the need there because I did see that the girls could be developed, that it actually could be good entertainment for families. You know what I mean? Especially during that time when they played during the spring, when, you know, basically there was only thing at that time was, you know, college spring football. If you couldn't make it to that, there was no football. So it would have been good family entertainment. And so I just joined out there, and then just some things we didn't quite agree with, so we parted ways. And then we started our team, the North Florida Pumas, and then we went to work around that. And there's certain things that I saw that for what I like to do and my integrity level and the things I like to do far as how things should be run, organized to make it more normal so it can be acceptable to the general public. It ended up just transferring where we started this league, because the one thing I want people to accept the game.
Now, when you were coaching, obviously coaching, starting a team, owning a league, there's different levels to that. What about coaching women's football kind of intrigued you to the point where it kind of pulled you in to go further? Because, I mean, let's be honest, you very rarely, it's become more acceptable, but you still don't even necessarily see young girls integrated into high school football. So now you have a whole league that's been created for women. Where are these girls, you know, coming from to play, and what about it kind of drew you in?
They come from all walks of life. You've got every race, creed, color, background, you know, financial stability. You know, you got everybody that comes in. They come in for all kind of different reasons. One thing I can tell you about the ladies, there's a level of toughness that you don't really have to. If she's going to step on that field, you don't usually have to question their toughness. You know, first of all, pain is not strangers to ladies at that age. So
they've had babies.
Right, there you go. So it's not that. Actually, sometimes you have to reel them in, because you'll have ladies that'll play with torn lead ligaments, full ACL blows. Oh, I can still get out. No, you can't. Yeah, yes, I can. I'm telling you, I'm going to show you that I can. It's like, no, for your safety, we have to reel you in. So the toughness level of the women in women's tackle football.
Was it shocking?
No, because I grew up with a lot of tough women and stuff like that. But what was shocking was how widespread it was. Everybody is at that level. The only difference is the knowledge base.
Gotcha.
Because they haven't come from raised up playing football. Outside of having a brother or some family member playing, their knowledge wasn't on the field. Nowadays, thank God, it's getting better and better. You got some teams. Shout out to the Utah Girls Football League. That there are actually the only one in the country where the girls are actually playing football at the youth level.
Wow.
That's one of my goals, is to try to expand that, like in the state of Florida and down the southeast, as we grow this league and we get more companies and businesses seeing the integrity of how we're going to run the operation. We want to expand it so those girls get to play that, because I think the option of them playing, it's just like me. It benefit me playing tackle football. All different type of areas makes you grow up, makes you learn how to work with other people outside of just basketball. All those other sports have their great, but football is the one sport I would say is close to a military operation as you can get playing football, playing sports. You know, and then military is one of the things that bring in closeness out of all the different races. When you get in that, when you're in that foxhole, or you're in that ship, or you kind of forget about where you came from. You got to get this done. You know what I mean? Because our lives are on the line, or this mission is on the line.
Right. And so it's a similar mindset with football. So when you talk about, you know, and I'm glad you brought up this point, one of the major differences between men who play football, they've been playing since 4. I mean, girls can play at that age too, because at 4, you know, boys and girls kind of still play the same thing together, and then it kind of splits off right around elementary age. You see that kind of gap begin to widen. So when it comes to your league, how you've coached, becoming an owner, starting a league, which we'll get to that part because that's a story in and of itself. Film study, classroom skills, how do you incorporate that into the game of football and make it fun for the women to learn stuff like that?
That's one of the main reasons about why we're doing this. This league is going to be all about fun. Obviously, this case in point, the situation right now, we had to we suspended all off-field operations. There's no practices. But we encourage everybody to get in the film room. You know, go in there and get thanks to our partner, Watch Game Film, Miss Becky. They're going to be providing us with our game sharing platform. So we had one of the coaches from South Carolina actually called me trying to get some film on our team and a couple other teams that they want to try to get ahead on the scouting about knowing what the kind of offense that they're going to be, on defense they'll be going against. Those are the things that the coaches right now, all the teams are working on. They're going to be meeting with their players. They can actually see, you can do that now with things, like I said, social media. They can get on Zoom and they can share things. They can talk about stuff. And they can have all that stuff that they can be working on right now, which they are working on right now, away from the field. That'll get them ready, because what we gave ourselves was, when everything clears out, we're going to give ourselves 3 weeks, and then we're going to get back to playing.
Yeah.
You know, let's something changes that we're not ready and we have to make a different decision. We're planning on playing whenever they give us the okay. That's why we haven't set a date as to it, because nobody knows.
Yeah.
I mean, when you got the big boys telling us they don't know right now, and they're trying to make sure what they're going to plan. We have our Contingency Chiefs plans right now. So we met a couple of Saturdays ago. We're going to meet again probably next Saturday. And we have, the one thing I like about my league, all of our owners on all our leaders of our team give input. There is no one, there's not just me and the rest of you. We're all basically like the Knights of the Round Table. We all give our input. We all want to be a part of it, because my thing about it, if you're paying your fees to be a part of this, you're a customer. You have a right to have a say as to what goes on in your organization and who you're supporting. So that's what we do. We work together. We kind of come up with ideas, and it's been a great, wonderful group to work with. I've been really, really happy with that.
Yeah. So one thing we were talking about offline is the team that you are the owner of before you started your own league was in a couple different leagues before you guys got into the league that you created. Talk about the decision process that you kind of went through after being in 2 different leagues to kind of start your own. Because
actually, 3 different leagues.
3 different leagues. But that's a major, first of all, it's a major accomplishment. So congratulations. For those people that feel like, because we have this conversation all the time about there's no black owners in the NFL. Well, I think that people will agree with me in saying that you've kind of proven that you can own whatever you own if, you know, there's certain...
Will, there's a way.
Right. And what was your process of saying, you know, I think I need to start my own team, go out and league, and go out and grab other teams to join me? How did you come about that process?
Well, my grandmother taught me she taught me a lot of good stuff. But one of the things she always said, either do something about it or shut up about it. And what I didn't quite agree with was the structure and the communication, and most importantly, the integrity. I'm gonna just I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus,
right? But
the people involved in this area knew what I'm talking about. They can attest to what I'm saying. And me coming from as an outsider, and that's why I looked at myself, being a high school, dealing with the blue-gray, people, when you're trying to get people to follow you and businesses to support you and trust what you're doing, they're going to do their background. They're going to do, these people going to be spending thousands or maybe millions of dollars. Right. They're going to do their homework on you. They're going to check your social media. They're going to see everything that they know before, just like when you're doing in any pro sport, before they invest in you. And I wanted to make sure, for the sake of all the women, not just the women that are playing now, but the 7th, the 8th, and 9-year-olds right now that are going to be coming up playing in the next decades, I wanted to make sure that there's going to be something for them, because there's going to be always girls that's going to want to play this game.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the numbers now. The majority of money being spent in sports is being spent by women, either in the game or on the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean, you go to any pro game, there's just as many women there as men. I love the movie, what was that, with Queen Latifah, when she was a big basketball fan before she became the trainer. Yeah. Just Right. That was the name of the movie. And she was quoting all these things, and I'm like, oh, yeah, women know sports just as much as men. I mean, you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you look at the San Francisco 49ers, the opportunities now for ladies to be involved in football. And I try to get my ladies to understand the way you're going to get in football right now at this generation is like those ladies in coaching, in scouting, in the front office. And you can there is no area that's not needed when it comes to football. You need everybody in the organization to help you win. And that's why everybody gets a ring, because you can't do it without everyone.
Right.
You know, if the scouts don't bring in the right people, guess what? You'll be going in that same losing circle, you know. The coaches don't coach them right. If they don't have the right relationships with to make sure that everybody come together as a unit and perform and do what they need to do. You know, you coach Bill Belichick, do your job, you know.
Right.
You know, so, you know, all those different things make it important for us to do that. So what I wanted to do is just provide the platform so people, first of all, when they come to our league, they can feel included. They would know the level and integrity. They're going to be held accountable, and they're going to hold the league accountable. And when you do that, that puts a level at ease, and then everybody can just go to work doing what they need to do.
Yeah. Now, take us into the mind of an owner. So, COVID comes down. Everything's shutting down. All major sports, you see them go one by one by one. And, you know, we talked about this before, but I want you to kind of give viewers an idea of what is in the mind of an owner when he's having to make that decision, and also being able to pass down, because you guys have 12 teams. So you've got to convince 12 other owners who have spent their money for the season, schedules are done, uniforms are purchased, girls are ready to play, families are excited, and you have to say, we're going to put this thing on pause right now because of what's going on. What your thought process behind that?
Immediately got on the phone and started just like that. Our priority is the safety of these players. Our priority is the safety, and not of that of their families. You know, my whole thing was, we don't know who has it and how it's going to be transmitted. You know, so better to err on the side of caution than, you know, go there and then saying, Lord, I wish we would have done this. And we're all in it together, so we're all going to have the same amount of sacrifice. There's no person that's going to be affected by it more than others. So, and the fact that we all actually work together so good, closely as we do, we all kind of, we have our little disagreements. They have people that see things differently, but my thing is we all talk it out. My whole thing is we don't have to agree. We have to understand. Even if you still don't agree, but at least you understand where each other is coming from, which makes us work so well together. So when you do that, you have to think about, okay, where's the economics? What's the economic impact? Okay, well, that's secondary to the human impact. And once you get past that, we all know that these things we're going to have to do. And then, so we decided, like I said, we're going to suspend everything. We weren't going to postpone. We're not going to put a date on this because nobody knows. Until we get something concrete, then we'll get back together, and then we'll make some more decisions together.
How disappointed were the ladies?
How disappointed was I? I know they were disappointed because you hear the phone calls, you get the texting, you get like, you know, when are we going to start? You know, when are we going to start? You know, they'll say, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Just hold your horses. Let's see what we go through as a nation. How are we going to get through this together? And then we can move on, because everybody's going through it. And I think once everybody started realizing that, when you look at the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, even now the Olympics today decided that they were going to postpone. They were going to postpone it. Everybody kind of got the message now. I don't think there's going to be anybody really complaining. It's going to be a lot of disappointment. Well, we're all like, you think everybody who's playing sports now, the fans across the country are disappointed. You know what I mean? And if you want some football, you can go to the YouTube and watch the North Florida Pumas. All our games on our archive.
There you go. So one thing you mentioned earlier was when you began to discover your passion for football, you kind of fell in love with apparel and jerseys and colors and helmets and all of the equipment that goes into the game. And that led you to kind of start another business of your own. So kind of talk about that.
Before I do that, I want to give a shout out to one of my good buddies on this, Adam Bell, who does Charlton Sports Network. He did all of our streaming the last couple of years. Great guy, great. I love the way he did. We had a great time working together.
Thanks, Adam.
Doing our streaming and stuff like that. But I got into that because I was looking, because when we were coaching, we were looking for uniforms at high school level, and you're always trying to figure out a way to try to get it where you can get quality, but you can afford it. So a lot of times, I also knew some people that were in the when I worked for the Department of Homeland, I knew a lady that had her own clothing line, and at the airport, and she actually was giving me some ideas of different places to go. Like we went to a couple of trade shows, and though you start going and you start meeting all the different suppliers and stuff like that. And so that's why I went. I started going in there, and then I just started working through the process, and I got a designer. I started dabbling a little bit of artwork myself, but I'd leave it to the professionals. And then we just got into it. And I have a little bit of gift of gab, so I can sell. And so just got into it that way. My main thing was, being an African American, I want to make sure everybody can trust me, and I tried to make sure everything I did was with a level of integrity. And I tried to make it where people can see the quality, because this is the mindset change. Mostly, obviously, used to the big brands, and actually end up getting that. So I do sell Adidas and some of the other major brands. But when you're trying to get the people at the youth level and at this level, you got to get them something that they can afford, that's going to look great. People don't care what the name brand most of the time, as long as they feel good. Like Deion Sanders, you look good, you play good.
Right. And so you created an apparel company for
all over the country. We got contracts with like 3 or 4 different school districts across the nation. We sell all over the country. Actually, now we're selling international, especially now with this COVID, so because people trust what I'm doing now. So we got a lot of people around the world that we do business with, and it's been really helpful. Except for this COVID thing, it's really kind of hurt everybody. Definitely hurt my business. So because nobody's able to do any business right now.
Right.
But it's been that's been a really exciting process with that too.
And then inside of all of that you're doing, you discovered a passion for broadcasting and media and journalism. So talk about some of the things you've done in that industry.
Now, before I got into that, I did that before I actually got into the high school. Into the women's football. I had created with Terry Johnson. Baldy, how you doing? Him and Andreas Butler, who's my major writer down there in Central and Volusia County. Andreas Butler. Hey, Andreas. We basically started a magazine, which we still basically run online through Facebook and online, called High School Sports Spotlight. We just basically wanted to spotlight all the athletes in the Central Florida area about not just what they do on the field play, but their personal life, what led them to do all those type of things, why they're doing it. And we've been running that ever since 2015, and so we basically just do it. And Andres does a great job of keeping that up. He goes and covers the teams and stuff like that. So there's people will know in the area will have something outside of the normal newspaper and stuff that'll actually talk about their child.
In everything that you've got your hands in, one of the common themes is that high school age group. You love the high school sports. So what is it about the high school athlete and the development of the athlete that kind of keeps you so passionate and keeps your hands in that realm of sports?
Because when you're talking about from the middle school age until you leave your parents' home, that is probably the most vulnerable time in your life. You're susceptible to all kind of ideologies, anybody's influence, your own influence, whether it be negative or positive. And you need people, especially right now, that's going to give you an unbiased opinion of yourself. They're going to give you honesty. They're also going to give you options, which a lot of times is really in a short supply. You don't get options because the people usually in your circle of influence only know that one or two things that they're accustomed to. So that's all you're going to get. So I try to make sure that we talk about different things. I try to make sure that, hey, there's options out there outside of football where you can make a six-figure lifestyle. I mean, you can really earn six figures. Look for that, because I tell the guys, especially football, for every year you're playing, that's wear and tear on your body, which takes time off of your life from this planet.
Absolutely.
So you got to put all that, and you're only going to get, there's no guarantee, even if you made it to the NFL. They had the 30 for 30 broke. You got guys still make bad decisions when they get that money.
Yeah.
And if you're not prepared, there's an old saying, a fool and their money are soon parted.
Yeah.
So, you got to be smart, and you got to have a plan. It's better to have a plan and then have to change that plan than have no plan at all.
At all. Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing that I appreciate about you is you have a passion for driving African Americans in business and kind of creating platforms for people to succeed. Kind of talk about those things that you have and opportunities that you have for people who are looking to get involved in, whether it be coaching, apparel, maybe the Women's Tackle Football League, any type of media. Yeah,
we do a lot of consulting with people in different areas, different businesses. Basically, they think to the submarine community. I know I got a hands. A lot of people know a lot. Like say in the movie Avengers, he got eyes here, ears everywhere else, and you got people that'll feed you information because you got. Give you an example. I took participated and got my IT certification in Generations.org. Great organization. They're nationwide, matter of fact, a worldwide organization that gets young people a chance to get in the IT field. They pay you to go to school to get your IT certifications, which is now a six-figure lifestyle type of industry. You can go there and become anything in the IT field, from a programmer to an engineer, network engineer, and all those different things where you can actually make a great generational change for the people coming behind you. And then I partner with different people in different businesses. In the security company, Viewport Security. Shout out to Pastor Jamal Suber. He's one of my partners in our security agency. Different things of what we do to just partner with people. Yeah. You partner with them, and then you help them be successful. Like there's an old saying in the old mafia days, Meyer Lansky. He was able to retire because he always made money for his partners. My thing is to try to help other people be prosperous, and that helps you be prosperous.
Absolutely.
You think about it, the chef never goes hungry.
That is true. That is true. I like that. Okay, let's play a little bit of rapid fire because I want people to kind of see just the sports historian you are, because I know personally, but I think this will be fun. So this is a little bit of your opinion too, so we'll kind of warm up with just some basic questions. In your opinion, between the 70s and now in the new decade of the 2020s, best head coach to ever coach football, who and why?
Ooh, between the 70s and now?
Yeah. If you could pick any head coach to coach right now for any team, who would it be and why?
I would say Bill Belichick, because he came up through the system. If you look what he and who he's learned under, you know, from the New York Giants and even before that, he's learned from some of the masters. And when you become the master and you surpass those masters, that now makes you the master.
Yeah. Biggest Hall of Fame snub so far? Let's say in the past 10 years. We don't want to go that far back. But in the past 10 years, who's been the biggest Hall of Fame snub in your opinion?
Ooh, that's some good ones. That's kind of a hard choice. Can I do one defense and one offense?
Absolutely.
One offense would be Ed Too Tall Jones.
Yes. Wow, good.
Yeah.
Love that pick. Defense?
Yeah, he's a defensive player. Offensive player, ooh, that's really tough.
There's a lot of snubs, and there might be one coming up in this next class, but
right. I'm trying to think between. There's a couple of running backs, and there's a couple of. I think most of the Rams. I think the Rams guys got in. I can't remember his name, but it's
Isaac Bruce.
Yes.
Isaac Bruce.
Yeah, and that was going to be my guy, but I would just say, and I mean it's kind of a homerism. And it's because, you know, I like the guy, and I've met him a couple of times. Here locally, I think if you're going to go by just because what they did and not how long they did it, I would say Tony Baselli was one of the snubs that I would look at, because the last couple of years he's been so close.
Yeah.
And that's kind of really heart-wrecking for him and his family.
Absolutely.
And I kind of feel sorry for any of those guys who get that close and get that close. And
year after year
Yeah, so
after
he's been
year.
like that. So that's the one I would think, because not because there's other guys that don't deserve it as much as him. I think just because the heart-wrenching things that I'm just imagine what he has to go through just to say no, not this time, and that's been so close.
Yeah, and how they really choose between the two. Okay, last thing, because before the cameras went on, you and my producer, Mr. Petty, were just chatting it up about Jaguars free agency. So, in your opinion, the best acquisition for the Jags in free agency has been who?
Wow, that's because most people don't know these guys.
Yeah.
So they're just assuming that they're not going to be good.
Right. But you've coached for 25 plus years. You've seen some superb athletes come up. So who do you think?
I like Gunter.
Okay.
The reason I say the other guys, everybody understands it. I think Gunter is going to do a good job replacing Calais Campbell and being able to switch from the big end into the the three technique, or maybe even the one technique. And we don't know if they're even going to go 3-4. So he might be able to play your big end, your three as your five technique. So you don't know, but I think he's going to be a really good act, and I think he gives them some flexibility when it comes to the draft as to who they might pick, whether they go offense or defense. Now that they got, that's not necessarily a gotta have spot now.
Yeah. Good pick. So as we wrap up the show, tell people how they can follow you, get in touch with you, and if they have any inquiries, how do they reach you?
Obviously, you can get in touch with me if you go on my Facebook page, Terry McGriff. You can reach us also at Women's Tackle Football League at WTFL.com or North Florida Pumas, NFPumas.com. But easy way, you can always instant message me up on Facebook. You'll see the little submarine icon and our little Pumas girls in the background. And anything we can do, if you're looking for some business opportunities, if you come with a good idea, I can probably match it with the right person or the right group to help you out. And if you're needing some just some assistance with your youth, with some counseling, we do counseling to try to put your youth athletes in the right frame of mind and the right people to be connected with. I don't do any training, but I can give you the great people to do the training with. I do the counseling. I do the crisis management for them. Hopefully you don't have to put yourself in that position. But if you need crisis management, you need somebody to help you with direct statements or things of that nature, press releases, I'm your guy. Got that too. Listen, that was a mouthful, guys. The point is, go to Facebook, follow him, Messenger. You can get in touch with him. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. Don't forget, you can always, why don't
don't you just binge watch Get in the Game episodes
you
for
go.
the next couple weeks? We have plenty of them up on our YouTube page. Head on over there. Get in the Game with Satara J. Also, don't forget to go over to 904live.com Facebook page and website. Like, share, and subscribe so you can always be in step with what we're doing here on the sports side of this network. Also, follow us on social media. My personal page on Facebook, Satara Bunch. That's Bunch with an E. Also, Instagram and Twitter at Bunch, the letter A, in legs, spelled Legzz. Maybe one day I'll give you the story of where I got that nickname. But for now, we're going to sign off. Listen, if you know anyone interested in partnership or sponsoring the Get in the Game show, please reach us at getinthegameshow@gmail.com. Thank you so much to our producers, Mr. Petty, Mr. Allen, the best momager on the planet, Melinda Henry, and my stylist there in Atlanta, Barbara J. We appreciate all of you. Until next week, you guys stay inside, stay safe, and practice social distancing, even though it's really hard. See you guys next week. Have a good evening.